The first on my list is actually a player who's no longer 23 and under, but has most recently turned 24 years old. But he was featured in a previous Scouted Football handbook. That's Gerson from Flamengo, who originally came over to Europe as a youngster, came over, joined Roma, didn't really take off in the way that it was sort of envisaged, went on loan to Fiorentina, didn't really kick on there either, and returned to Brazil, where he since has won the Brasileirão twice with Flamengo. And yeah, he's just a very, very good player. I think he's somebody who, for the fee that has been paid, roughly around 25 million euros, it's quite an investment. It's quite a show of faith in Gerson. And I also think that it's perhaps under his market value. I know he's coming from Brazil, but I think it's perhaps that he's probably a 35 million pound player if he was perhaps had the spotlight shone on him a little more, because his progressive capability is quite immense. You know, he's a very good dribbler. He's a very good carrier. He's very good at beating players. He's very good at drawing fouls. He's very good at getting his frame in between the man and the ball. But he's also good at getting the ball into the final third purely through passing, which I think sometimes is you often get one or the other with these types of players. If they're progressive, they're usually a good dribbler, a good carrier, or they're a good passer. Not both, but I think Gerson has he's a dual threat in that aspect. Is Mo? I want to come to you. Is that the type of player that OM have been missing in the past few months, perhaps under Sampaoli? Is that somewhere where it was very much a first priority?
Absolutely. I mean, it's exactly what you described. Marseille have not had a player in his profile for quite a while. I mean, the closest would have been Maxime Lopez, who went to Sassuolo last summer. But even then, sort of his shine has been dropping off for quite a while. I mean, with Gerson, I mean, Marseille don't spend 25 million every summer. It's a club that very doesn't. I think with Gerson, it'll be the second or third most expensive signing of all time for the club. And at a time, obviously, where the pandemic is still hurting the finances and obviously the TV deal, it seems a very big bet by Frank McCourt and the club to really put their bet in a player. And they've identified him because of his strong performances in Brazil. I mean, this is a player that hasn't done really well in his first stint in Europe, in Italy with Roma and Fiorentina, and going back to Brazil has really ignited his career. In the current sort of team in midfield, Valentin Rongier and previously Morgan Sanson, who since went to Aston Villa in January, were sort of the number 8 sort of type players, but either weren't proficient, as you said, across a broad range of skills. They didn't have the strong skill set that Gerson does. I mean, in Rongier, a very good passer, but certainly not progressive at all. And with Sanson, very progressive, but not having any sort of defensive capabilities, unable to be tenacious in the middle of the park. And really, this is somebody that was sort of a mini number 10 who was a bit jilted by the fact that Dimitri Payet had consumed his position. So he became sort of a person that's never really had the rub of the green in his favourite position in the Marseille midfield, hence his eventual sale. And obviously other players in the midfield, Boubacar Kamara, we've spoken about him before on the pod. A converted centre back, again, not a player that has sort of the vision and the eye to really progress forward and contribute to the attacking phases of play. So there's certainly been a Gerson-shaped hole in the Marseille midfield for a lot, and hence why they've been ready to shell out some serious money for him, because obviously I think a strong season or two, that 25 million can really be doubled very, very easily.
Certainly, yeah, that was everything that sort of came across in Brazil, and the nature of Copa Libertadores football, which is, I mean, mainly what I was able to see of him in Brazil, is that it is perhaps a little bit more open, a little bit more expansive, and Gerson really shone in those areas. But I think the fact that Marseille have been able to snare him from there and have taken the leap of faith, it's not often that a player will come to Europe and then return to South America to then return back to Europe once again. A lot of teams feel as though that's an unnecessary risk, and 25 million is a considerable outlay, but they've clearly seen that there's been enough there for them to place this faith in him.